When it comes to evil agendas of the elites, there are many people asking themselves, I'm talking people in the activist world or people that are actively opposing evil in the community. Such people often ask themselves, how can it be that those evil people at the top often come with their dark satanic agendas and the agendas unfold so easily? Why is it that Satan seems to win? I'm saying seems to win because Satan is doomed anyway. So any plot he and his human servants come up with will only be self-destructive. Nevertheless, self-destructive agendas unfold in human communities on a daily basis and causes destruction. Why is it that the elites' agendas often work? Now, I'm not saying they get exactly what they want, which is to shut down Christ, because you can't do that. But they do get away with, at least in our human terms, they get away with in the here and now, to deceive, enslave, and ruin the futures of many people. I'm telling you why. It's as simple as the question itself. The reason why the elites' agendas often succeed is because the crowd or the public is neglectful towards their own. Just think about it. Let's say the elite wants to introduce a surveillance system just to limit the economic activity of the public. Now, if the elite will send their politicians or their salesmen to tell the public, we need a surveillance system, then the public's going to ask, why do you need a surveillance system? What's going on? Who's going to run the surveillance system? Oh, what does the surveillance system mean for us? It means that we'll be watched all the time. There'll be restrictions on us. Why do we need those restrictions? If we would come with this suggestion to have a surveillance system, the public's going to be suspicious of it, rightfully so. So that's not how they do it. Instead, the elite will cause some dysfunction in the community. Or they will take advantage of a present dysfunction that people are overlooking. For example, orphans. Let's say there are many orphans in the community. Why are there so many orphans? You have orphans because either the parents died, tragically, that can be something, but if you have orphans over and over again, it means that parents are not dying, those children are just abandoned. So you have this dysfunction of parents abandoning children in a community. But the public does not want to address it because none of the other families want to take one of those abandoned children. They don't want to be bothered, so that's why you have orphanages. That's the only reason you have orphanages, because the community doesn't want to deal with children being abandoned. Now, let's say the elite now sees this. There are many orphans in the community. And many of those orphans end up in criminal activity because, due to their background, people often want to associate with them. So, there is a dysfunction here that's kept alive by the neglect of the public. So what will happen? The elite now will take advantage of this by providing housing and jobs for those orphans. And because of that, those orphans end up being loyal to the elite. And those orphans are now brainwashed with their pagan philosophy. So those orphans now will act out false flag attacks on the same community that neglected them. And the elite will tell the orphans who are now grown-ups, look, these people are neglectful. That's why they allowed you all to stay in those dark conditions. These people are not trustworthy. That's why they need to be managed. And that's correct. That's a fact, 100%. So the orphans can clearly see how neglectful the people are. Now the public, or the people themselves, want to see this about themselves. They want to see themselves as good people, always have the reasons when they do bad stuff. Now, so the orphans conduct false flag attacks. The public perceive those false flag attacks as actual attacks on their daily life. And because of the narcissism of the crowd, the people now feel entitled to a solution, even though the problem was caused by their own neglect. But expect someone to come and make things easy for them. That's the narcissism of the crowd. And the elite who understand this, they will then tell those former orphans, you see, there are something bad happens in the community. Instead of them focusing on a solution and thinking what's going on, instead of them reflecting on themselves, they get upset, they scream around, and now they want someone to escalate on. They want to scapegoat someone, or they just want someone to come around and make sure they are left alone. And then the orphans are now seeing, indeed, that's what happens to us. We were abandoned by our parents. Instead of the community dealing with our parents or finding solutions for us, just dumped us as orphanages. So, what happens now? Then the elite will come with they will send some politician who tells them, you know what? There's so much criminal activity going on over here. We need better surveillance to prevent this from happening. And the public, so upset that their daily life has been disrupted, will say amen. And they will vote for this politician, they will agree with the politician, and then they will be the ones demanding that the politician executes his idea. And what do you know? You have a surveillance system. And now that you have the surveillance system, that same public is restrained, and not only that, they're impoverished. Now the elite who serve Satan have a better grip over them. Now, if the public would have faced themselves in the mirror and deal with their shortcomings and deal with their own neglect by repenting, then the elite would go out of business. The elite would become homeless creeps with nothing to offer. And that's what they are anyway. But it's because of the collective neglect of the community that elites gain a hold over the community. That's it. And that's why I'm warning you. Beware of those postmodern philosophies that enable collective denial and enable collective neglect. For example, some people say, well, if you did wrong stuff in the past, right now you can advocate against it because A, you've grown. Okay, grown into what? A child grows into an adult. A seed grows into a plant. So if you've grown, what have you grown into? Look, a lot of people only become upset when something disrupts their daily ease. If it doesn't disrupt their daily ease, it doesn't bother them. Even objective, horrible things don't even bother them unless it disrupts their daily ease. That's the narcissistic attitude of many people. I'm not saying all people, no, but that's the narcissistic attitude of many people. And it is this dominant narcissistic trait in the human species that keeps the world the way it is. A lot of people put all the blame on the elites who are using their leverage to keep us in misery. The elites can only succeed in keeping us in misery if we are invested in that misery. Think about it. If someone would come to you and tell you to stop and to give them your data, some random individual think, who are you? Get out of here. I don't have to tell you anything. But if a police officer comes with a badge, tells you to stop and hand over your papers, you'll do it. Why? Because the police officer is backed up by the government, and they're backed up when they use violence against you. And you have been raised to think that the police is there to protect you. So because you are now invested in this societal narrative that the police are there to protect you, that's why you think, oh, it's a police officer, so he's on my side, he wants to protect me. So you hand things over to the police officer. Now, am I saying that there are no police officers out there who mean well to the community? Yes, of course they exist. But we know that the system of the police is something Freemasonic, rooted in darkness, related to Greek devil worship. That's why they often use those stars and those satanic symbols, like pentagrams, on their badges and their logos. Now, the difference is that when a police officer arrives, he arrives in name of some authority figure. An authority figure you have been trained to see as legitimate. If it was some guy from some drug cartel or some criminal organization who just stop you out of the blue, you would run away thinking, what is this? Now, look at this. The guy that tells you to stop, and he's from a drug cartel, he is also backed up with violence, but the group that backs him up is considered illegitimate. And because his group is illegitimate, his group tends to go quite far. Kidnapping you, torturing you, killing you. Now, the police is considered legitimate, and to retain and maintain this legitimacy, they can't just act out of line. They have to do it in a ritual way to validate the masses. But both the police as well as the drug cartel are capable of kidnapping you. They're capable of hurting you and capable of causing harm to you. But with the police officer, at least many people are trained to feel comfortable, even though the inner radar points out something is off. And with the drug cartel, people automatically realize it's off because it is a drug cartel. They thrive on the misery of drug addicts. So with one, you automatically see that, hey, this is off. With the other, you're trained to deny it. And that's what I want to emphasize now, the denial. Evil agendas only succeed because the masses neglect themselves as a group. That is why. That is the only way an evil agenda can succeed. I mean, if you arrive in a village and you have, let's say you have bad intentions, and you arrive in a village and everyone can clearly see you have bad intentions and they all recognize you have bad intentions and they all turn away when you walk around, they all ignore you or they all make plain they don't want you around, are you going to stick around? No, because there's not much you can do over there because everyone's walking away from you. Nobody gets involved with you. People ghost you openly. Why? Because they want you out, because you have bad intentions. But if you arrive somewhere and you have bad intentions and people for the convenience sake, they don't want to face it or they want to be bothered by it, the people just enabled you to spread misery in their own community. They just enabled you to take advantage of the weaker people amongst them. And that's what I'm talking about. Fallen mankind is neglectful on an individual basis and on a collective level. They are neglectful. And it's this neglect that demons exploit. It's this neglect that the elites exploit. So instead of being so horrified by the elites and what they're doing, be more horrified by the masses who keep their mouth shut and who don't face things. And here's the thing. Once you admit that something is wrong, you are responsible and you're obliged to do something about it. And that's what the public doesn't want. The public just wants to be left alone, unhindered, unchallenged. That is how worldly people are. Now, it's one thing to want relaxation after getting home from work, for example. If you just came from work and you're tired, of course you want to have some peace. You want to be quote-unquote left alone because, A, you're tired. You need some time to recharge. That's different. Or if you are married and you want to spend some quality time with your family, that's required to keep your family healthy. So that you tell people then that you want to be alone with your family, that's understandable. That's justified. But if you just want to be left alone all the time, you never want to be held accountable for anything, you never want to be addressed on anything, and you never want to be called out on by anyone, that is narcissistic. That is neglect. As simple as that. Because no community can remain healthy if people have this leave me alone attitude. People should pay attention to their surroundings, where they live, and to be accountable to how they influence their surroundings. So yes, people do owe you something, namely to look after you. And you also owe them something by looking after them. That's how you keep a community sane and safe. This whole, hey, you're an adult, you're a grown man, you're a grown woman, it's your responsibility, your life, and it's not my problem, leave me alone. Oh, it's my private life, blah, blah, blah. All those excuses are just excuses for not wanting to be held accountable. It's fallen mankind want to get away with being selfish and narcissistic so that they never are confronted by anyone. That's it. So, as long as people are neglectful, that means they operate in darkness. As long as that's the case, evil agendas will succeed. Because think about it. Let's go back to the example I gave to you, that the elites want to force a surveillance system. There are going to be aware people going to realize, hold on a minute, yes, there are quite some crime, there's quite some crime happening around here, that's true, but this surveillance system, in this surveillance system, we're going to lose many of our liberties, we're going to lose many of our freedoms, we're going to lose much of our autonomy. So whoever has a surveillance system will also enslave us. So you're going to have self-aware people who are going to realize, hold on a minute, this goes wrong. And those self-aware people will warn the public, hold on a minute, this goes too far. But the public often tells them, shut up, you're a conspiracy theorist. Shut up, you're a heretic. Shut up, you're nuts. We don't want to hear it. Why? Because the public just want to be left alone. They felt bothered by the disruption, and now that disruption is being quote-unquote solved. This is how they see it. They see you as a disruption for the solution. They see you as the one holding them back. But you're the one pointing out this is not what it appears to be. So what happens now? The public, who was neglectful from the start, are the ones that cause the dysfunction. And dysfunction has just been exploited by the elites. So now the elites who exploited dysfunction are the same elites who will offer the relief to the public. And because the public is so obsessed with relief, they're so obsessed with the leave me alone attitude, they will not realize that they've been played, they've been fooled, only when it's too late. Only when the victims have been killed, only when the blood has been shed, only when the neglected children have grown into defective adults, only then they're going to realize, oh dear, this was a wrong idea. But even then, they will not take responsibility as a group that they were the perpetrators who allowed bad things to happen, and they were the perpetrators that refused to reflect on themselves and become better people. So the reason I make this video because I want to remind you that this neglect is something that will only disappear when people become born again and serve Christ Jesus as Lord and Savior. That is the only way this neglect is going to disappear. It's only when people worship and serve the Heavenly Father, it's only then that this neglectful attitude will be gone. It's only in serving the Heavenly Father that we become full and whole human beings. Apart from serving the Heavenly Father, we are fractured. And as fractured beings, we will always end up neglecting ourselves and other people one way or the other. So, people that don't want to serve the Heavenly Father, but think they can do things on their own, they're delusional. They are the ones keeping us back as a whole, as a species. In this lifetime, you will encounter such people. But it's only during this lifetime they're tolerated. When Jesus comes back, all those people who are keeping the human species behind, with their relief seeking, they'll be deported to the lake of fire, where their misery will only afflict them for all eternity. While the rest of mankind who is redeemed will enjoy everlasting benefits in immortal physical bodies on a new earth. So, beware with relief-seeking philosophies. There are many relief-seeking philosophies out there. For example, a guy can be a whoremonger. He's sleeping around here and there. And many of the women he slept around with were women in committed sexual relationships. They were married, or they were engaged, or they had boyfriends. And a lot of those women are also younger than them. That's what they did when they were in their 20s, 30s, some even until their 40s. But then, eventually, they become fathers. They have daughters. And one day, their daughter comes home, crying, and she tells Daddy, this guy slept with me. I thought he loved me, but I saw him with another girl. Now that they have to face and deal with a heartbroken daughter, now they get pissed off, now they're upset, now they want to go out and kill the guy who did it to the daughter. But then, it's an irony, because when he was 20 years old, or 25, or 30, sometimes even when some people begin when they were 15 or 16, they were doing the exact same thing. Of course, when they were in their teens, they would do it to people older than them or of the same age, not people younger. Because younger would be children, and most are not into that depraved pedophile lifestyle. At least I hope they're not into it. But anyway, so you look at that man was now upset that some player played his daughter. When he was younger, it was exactly the same way. He played many women. Some have a body count even in the 200 or 300. But hey, when they were doing it, they were just living their life. They just want to be left alone, because they were thinking you only live once, so you have to enjoy life. So we don't want any restraints. We want to be left alone. So hey, they did what they wanted to do. And back then, they did not consider that those women they were playing with were someone's daughter, granddaughter, or maybe someone's future wife. Because yeah, they played those women, but those women got traumas by being played, and now they later would marry someone else, and the man they would marry would now have to deal with the baggage. Some of those women later got involved with other men, and they got children, so the children of those women also have to deal that they have a traumatized mother. They didn't think about all of that. No, they were only focused on me, myself, and I. But now that they are at the receiving end of the same attitude being acted by younger people, now they're so upset, because now they're the ones who need to deal with it. And now suddenly they begin to advocate against such behavior. Why do they advocate against such behavior now? It's not because they've become better human beings. It is because now, out of necessity, they have to deal with a situation they want to deal with. And now they're the ones feeling like the victim. Even though the truth is, many of the people out there who have that same playing behavior got it from them when they were young. When they were younger, they were playing around. There were younger people growing up seeing that, and they copied that. So his daughter now being played is something he contributed to. So why is he not facing himself? Well, let's tell his daughter, but then once a younger man used to do these things also. And what's going to happen? The daughter's going to think, Dad used to do such horrible things? That's going to destroy his relationship with his daughter. So he's going to pretend to be this great man who changed and who matured, all of that. Now look, there are people actually maturing, becoming better human beings. That exists. But many people use the I've changed card or the I've grown card. They use the I've changed card or the I've grown card only when it suits them. They're still chasing relief. But they can't chase relief the same way they used to do it when they were younger. So now they chase relief in different ways. Now they chase relief by being the victim and blaming younger people for not being quote-unquote respectful. And often when people say, I've changed or I've outgrown certain people, we tend to applaud them. But they actually become better human beings. Often it's not the case. Often it's out of necessity that they're restrained. And because they're restrained now, they act they act the way they should. Just because they act the way they should right now, because they're restrained, doesn't mean they're better human beings. They're the same relief seeker. The only thing that holds them back are the circumstances. If it weren't for the circumstances, they would be doing the exact same thing like they used to. So, do not be deceived by people will use the I've changed card. Did they change? And by the way, change can also be for the worse. You either change for the better or you change for the worse. If you change for the better, you have more. You'll be better in having empathy, compassion, and you'll be solution-oriented, and you'll be flexible and practical with other people. That's when you change for the better. If you become or remain static, holding on to restrictions, that you call boundaries, then you are becoming worse. Because you're still holding on to restrictions. Becoming a better human being implies giving up restrictions and operate in abundance. It's there that you find solutions. So what is it? Did they change for the better? Or did they change for the worse? They can say, I've changed. Okay, but you've changed into what? Someone can say, I've grown. Yeah, but what have you grown into? Those are the questions we often don't ask about people. Because truth being told, many of us use the same excuses. I've changed. I've outgrown. For example, if you outgrow certain people, look, if you're in kindergarten, you tend to play around as a child. Once you mature into teenage years, you don't play around anymore because you have to finish high school or you're in your sexual development, so you develop interest in opposite sex and all of that. So the childhood relations you had as a child, you outgrow them automatically. That's understandable, we all do. Or if you used to be in high school and you had a certain set of people you hung out with, now you haven't seen those people for years because you all went your separate ways, studying, starting a family, working. So you outgrew that high school setting. Okay, those are things you automatically outgrow, so that's understandable. But you have a lot of people out there who tell you they've outgrown certain people. When you look at the actual history, what they did was they abandoned people, they just discarded people they couldn't use anymore. Because they couldn't take advantage of certain people anymore, they just discarded them. But now they will never tell you that they just use people because they didn't see any benefit in discarding someone. They will never tell you that. Because that means that if one day they don't perceive you as valuable, they'll do the same to you. And they know very well that if they would openly tell you that they've discarded people because they didn't see any benefits in them, you're going to be thinking, you know what, I don't want to deal with you. Because that means that you're going to do the same to me. So they will say, I've outgrown those people, or they've outgrown me. They're going to come with some fancy excuse to make them look good. Now, can you outgrow certain situations? You should. Can you outgrow certain social relationships? Yes, you can. Can other people outgrow an involvement yet with them? Yes. But does that mean that it's okay for people to just discard you because they don't see any benefit in you anymore? No, it's not. Yet in the world, that's exactly what happens. And we applaud people when they say, I've outgrown him, or I've outgrown her, or they've outgrown me. Or it doesn't suit my purpose anymore. Have you ever heard such stuff? Those are dangerous philosophies. Those are relief-seeking philosophies. And those philosophies are meant to sugarcoat the neglect of the masses. As simple as that. It's the same way as someone openly abusing you verbally, but I'm telling you, at least I'm honest. No, if they're honest, they would reflect on themselves, realize, you know what? My attitude towards this individual doesn't add up. I should face myself and deal with frustration. No, they just want to unload the frustration on you. They don't care how it affects you, but then say, I'm honest. The reason they say I'm honest behind it is just to excuse themselves for what they've just done. So that you will think, well, at least this individual is honest. And a lot of people are brainwashed into thinking, oh, okay, at least this individual is direct and open about what they're doing. But someone in the right mind, or someone that's reprobate, but still factual, is going to think, hold on a minute. If this individual is just quote-unquote honest, but just dumping their feelings like this, why don't they do it towards the police officer or towards the judge in the courthouse? Why don't they do it against their employer at work? Why don't they do it against their own parents? No. Why are they doing it against me? Oh, because in this social setting, they have a leverage over me. So they only will be quote-unquote honest and blunt towards people they have a leverage over. Because with those people, they can get away with escalating. They will never escalate against someone that will be tricked against them. If someone, they know that if they dump on someone that will fight back or beat their ass, they're in trouble. So that's the thing. We often neglect our own collective sanity, our own collective safety by sugarcoating the neglect of our own communities. If someone is married, for example, and they cheat on their spouse, let's say a man cheats on his wife, and he now lives with his girlfriend instead of being with his wife. Then he says, well, I've outgrown my wife, or things just don't work out anymore. Okay, why aren't things working out anymore? Oh, now that the children are entering the teenage years, and the children are about to leave the house soon, now something doesn't work anymore? Why did it work until now? Oh, because the children now are asking questions. The children now realizing inconsistencies about their own father. And because this man doesn't want to face himself, he wants to get out of the situation, he's fleeing. He is fleeing. He doesn't want to have his children questioning him. And because he can't get away with spanking the children anymore, because the children are older, because he used to spank the children when the children began to question him, because he can't do that anymore, he just wants to leave. But he will say, well, it didn't work out between you and your mom because, we have differences that we can't reconcile. Or to come with some excuse to make themselves look good for bonding the family. Now, the children may see through it, but because it's too painful or because the situation hurted them, they will get along with the excuse. Now, if you got along with an excuse because you were the one being victimized or you were the one that was being hurt, I can understand that. It's not your fault. You just had to cope with the situation. But now that you're out of the situation, or now that you're older, you need to face it for what it is. Fallen mankind is neglectful. That's what fallen mankind is. And that's why we believers should not be unequally yoked with unbelievers. Now, that's it for now. Keep on agreeing with Christ and always beware of the philosophies you entertain. Be at peace.